Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
Former friend who called me a bad influence for being child-free just demanded today that I take in his family, plus 3 kids into my home. The short version. A previous acquaintance, Dave, not his actual name, with whom I haven't spoken in over 3 years, has just contacted me again. He says he has a home emergency and needs to locate a place for him, his wife, and their 3 children to stay until the matter at home is resolved. This is the same man who once told me that he couldn't be my buddy because I'd be a poor influence on his kids since I'm childless. A little backstory. The cause for the friendship's demise. I was under a lot of stress and felt really depressed. My father dying was just one of the terrible things that happened in a span of 3 months. I was searching for solace, but Dave informed me that being a CF woman was a harmful influence on their family. He had a wife and 2 kids at the time. In short, they didn't want to spend time with me because I wasn't worth their time, when they had more important pals. This was someone I'd known since graduate school and had spent a lot of time with doing fun things like rock climbing with. Dave and I were part of a group of common friends who leased out lake houses or winter lodges for summer and winter sporting activities on a regular basis. We're talking about a 10-year period. Then to simply abandon me because he didn't think I was valuable, it stung a lot, particularly because I was coping with some pretty tragic circumstances. Even more so since I was there for him when he found out his mother had cancer and then again at her death. As I previously said, I haven't talked or texted with him in over 3 years. I put it up to individuals acting strangely when they had children, that they have a typical conservative attitude in which everyone who does not desire or strive toward a Leave It to Beaver / 2.5 kid scenario is questionable. Then, today, I get a text message from Dave. I never deleted or disabled his phone number, thus his name was still preserved, and then it appeared. He requested me to allow him and his 3 children stay at my place since their water heater had broken and they were in an emergency situation. He's aware that I now reside in the same city as him, and that doing so would be a huge favor he owed me. Okay? That elicited a wide range of feelings. He and his wife apparently had a 3rd child after he warned me I was a terrible influence. I'm guessing it's a COVID infant. My main question was, why ask me? Of all people. I inquired as to why Dave was requesting me to do this for him. His argument was simply that he's out of alternatives and that no one has place for him and the 3 children, particularly with his 5-month-old. I asked him why he couldn't get them a hotel room. He stated it would be quite costly, and they already had a lot of medical debt from their newest child stay in the NICU when he was born. I stated it seemed difficult, but again, why me? He said that he knew I assisted someone with emergency lodging last year and noticed that I had adequate spare space for visitors. I could be generous with him today because I was so generous back then. I understood precisely what he was talking about, but I was curious as to how. That was a difficult circumstance, and I assumed it was a private family problem. He said it was shared on Facebook by the couple I assisted. Quick digression. About this time last year, one of my close college friends, Kate, with lupus, was on COVID-19. She was also being very cautious. It was a bummer since this was before the immunizations were made available to the most vulnerable individuals initially. She is my age, in her mid-30s, and otherwise healthy, despite having lupus. She's a marathon runner, in fact. Kate's lupus exacerbated COVID's condition, and she ended up in the intensive care unit. On top of that, she was pregnant, and her husband had to choose between saving her life and saving the baby. Basically, it was either provide Kate life-saving drugs and care at the risk of her fetus or she would die. Fortunately, he's a wonderful person who agreed to allow the doctors terminate the pregnancy in order to save her life. Kate's mother was a jerk who thought her daughter should have perished along with the baby. She said Kate's life was no longer valuable and even attempted to call in a priest to perform her final rites. Kate was in a coma at the time. As you may expect, this had a big dramatic impact. Kate's brother and his wife wanted to get away from there as soon as possible. I have an extra room and am conveniently located near the hospital. They remained with me for 2 days until they were able to get a hotel room in one of those long-term habitation hotels. No one knew whether Kate would make it out alive, so they naturally wanted to stay close by. They lived out of state and were living with their sister's sh*tty mother while she was in the hospital. Kate, thankfully, survived and has since rejected her mother. While in a coma, she recalls hearing others discussing the priest attempting to break in. I welcomed the brother and his wife into my house because they were nice people who were always supportive and are now some of the most kind people I know. Unbeknownst to me, since I'm not on Facebook, Kate's brother or wife apparently wrote something about how much of a nice person I was to assist them out at a time of extreme need, and to be a light in a very dark era for them. They told me so right in front of my face. I simply didn't realize they posted about it on social media. So, getting back to today. Dave saw it last year, remembered it, and assumed I would welcome his family and children into my house with open arms. To be honest, I told him to shove it. I was irritated that he was attempting to shame me into allowing him and his family to stay in my home for an indeterminate period of time. That he knows I'm childless. In fact, he says I'm a horrible influence on his family because I'm childless. Yet, when it's convenient for him, I'm miraculously not a terrible influence, and he should be allowed to stroll back into my life without even a single apology for the sh*t he spewed 3 years ago. I informed him that being child-free means I don't want kids in my house for a long time. I wouldn't be childless if I did. That I was not going to disturb my life or the lives of my 2 cats in order to serve as a bed and breakfast for his 3 children. He claimed I was selfish and that I should think about his kids. That he doesn't have hot water in his home. I told him he was difficult. That he may use a credit card or ask one of his family to pay the cost of a hotel stay. He made additional excuses, bringing up their medical bills again, and assured me that it would only be for a few days. I said that waiting many days for a damaged hot water heater is quite suspicious. Things like that can be remedied quite fast. I'm familiar with our state's residency regulations, and if someone stays in someone's house for 7 days, they may claim tenancy rights. I wasn't about to chance this evolving into something I couldn't get rid of. He yelled at me and then threatened to blow me all over social media and to all my friends for refusing to assist a family of 3 in an emergency, that I want small kids to suffer. He was told to pound sand and devour for years. He hasn't been a buddy. He doesn't even know where I live. All he knows is that I reside in the same city, supposedly nearby, and that I am single. He's free to slam me on social media as much as he likes. I'm not on Facebook, so I couldn't care less what a bunch of Karens think of me. I told him that social media was not real life. If he does share this with my genuine pals, they will laugh in his face. I told him I had all of his messages as evidence of how he talked to me and how much of a jerk he is. I told him he used to be a lovely man, that we had a lot of good moments together, that I'm still sad about his mother, and that I'm sorry he chose this road in life because it seems like he's unhappy. But he's a negative influence on my life, and I can't have him around. I'm sure he'll get it since he said the same thing about me. That was the substance of what I had just stated. He kept going until I stopped him. It makes me really sad. Back 10 years ago, he was a good guy, and his mother was a wonderful lady. I'm now preparing myself for flying monkeys to appear out of nowhere and attempt to persuade me to take in his family. I can't wait to tell him to take in his family. I had previously discussed the problem with my 2 closest friends, and they were both astounded that Dave was so forward and had no shame. They felt it was suspicious that he was so insistent on entering my home, for days. One acquaintance said that her water heater had just broken and that she had a plumber come out the same day. Things just took a day to have it corrected. Being opposed to the hotel concept was a red signal for them. They want to know the complete tale. I agree that it seems to be missing something. I do have a sense of justice about all of this. I know I made the correct decision. I despise the fact that a past act of goodwill was used against me. Years ago, I felt he had a point when he said I was not good enough because I was sad. Individuals don't like unhappy people around, for example. With more clarity, I understand that he had a very flawed personality. But it did bring up old emotions. Painful memories. Anyway, if you got it this far, thank you for reading. I needed to get everything off my chest and let it all out.